Yeah. So this sucks, but I have to fire you.
Me?
Yeah.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to the Sean Lowery Show. This is episode 31, and it's been a crazy week. And I have something this week that inspired me to have the topic for this podcast. And it's that I had to fire an employee this week. And I had a brand new situation because I had to fire her on the spot after we found out that she was selling monograms on her own Facebook page and using our machine and our equipment to do all the work. She obviously crossed the line, and she was also stealing blank items once in a while. Around the office, she was embroidering items for her other customers while she was on the clock.
I take stuff.
And it's just not cool. And everyone in the company found out. And honestly, I almost respect her hustle. And I wish her the best, but I had no choice and I had to fire her. And this was a new situation for me. I never had anything happen like this before. And it got me to start thinking over my thoughts about hiring people and having people on your team. And I'm thinking I've probably done over 100 interviews in my life, and I've hired around 60 people.
So, let me see. Very interesting. I see your hobbies are drinking, smoking weed, and all types of ill shit.
Since the beginning, since I started. And I do have some practical and simple advice that I think would be valuable for anyone that's in the situation that I'm in. Starting a company from the beginning, starting from scratch, having it be just you for a while, and then looking to grow it and needing to bring people on. A lot of people are in that situation, and I do have some practical advice. Obviously, hiring people is key to building a company. It's very important. You always hear about company culture, and that's real. That's a real thing. First of all, I think there's some stages when it comes to hiring for a young entrepreneur. So I think step one is hiring your first employee. Now, I'm not talking about working with someone or subcontracting someone or working with another company. I'm talking about a W-2 employee, someone who comes to you and you're responsible for them on a daily basis. This is a huge step. And I think that many entrepreneurs that start their business, they get here and then they get frozen when it's time to hire their first employee. They're like, I know what to do. I do this. This is my thing. I have my own schedule. I can't imagine someone else doing what I do. I think a lot of people start a company, they work for themselves for a while, and then they get to that point where it's logical and makes sense to have their first employee, and they get frozen. And I think that probably happened to me at one point, but I got over that. And that's step one, hiring your first employee. And your whole little do whatever I want on whatever time I want as an entrepreneur, that whole mindset kind of changes when you have your first employee because you have to be there before they get there. You want to leave after they leave. So you have to be responsible. All of a sudden, everything changes because you're responsible for someone else and you need to be mature about it. So stage two is your second employee. Now, stage three isn't your third employee, but stage two is when you have two employees. Because once you have your second employee, then it becomes a culture because it becomes something you need to monitor. So what's the relationship like between your two employees? How do they interact? What are their days like? You have to monitor the interaction between your two employees. You have to make sure that, one, they don't hate each other, because if you come into work every day and the only other employee is someone you hate, you're going to hate your life, and it doesn't matter what the work is, you're going to be miserable. So you have to monitor that. But also, if they're best friends, then they're going to spend all day talking to each other and not get any work done. So once you have two employees, you have a company culture, and that's something you have to start managing. And having two people is way different than having one. I think the third stage is where I'm at right now. It's about 10 to 15 employees. And I think the third stage is defined by when you start needing to have managers of managers. When you need to have somebody out of those 10 to 15 people who's in charge of other people, that's stage three. And that's where I'm at. And I was talking about being frozen in stage one when you're looking to hire your first employee. Right now, I just had an interview very recently with an operations manager, somebody who I would hire for a lot of money to manage 15 of my people. And I'm at that point right now where it makes sense. I've thought about it. I've played it through in my head. I've put out the job description. I've had an interview with a very eligible and respectable person that could do this job. And I kind of have to just pull the string and do it. I'm a little scared. It's a little frozen, but that's the point I'm at right now. Stage 3, where I'm going to have people managing people. And that's right where I'm at. I'm talking about how this podcast is me on my journey, I'm at stage 3. I have 15 employees, but I'm at that stage right now. But then stage 4, this is a little out of my league. I've never been here before, but what I imagine that's valuable in stage 4 is that you have people who are in charge of the systems and who are hiring people and retraining new people, and there's training manuals, and it makes replacing easier. This is when the company starts to hold more power. As long as I've been in stage 1 and 2, I'm always scared to lose people. Because say I hire a shipper and they're doing a great job, they come in every day and ship packages, and one day they quit, they're not there. Well, without the packages going out, my company can't run. So if I have plans for the next day and my shipper quits, all my plans are ruined. I have to go ship the packages. That's the stage I've been in for, the last 3 or 4 years. We've gotten bigger since then, but that stage sucks because you don't want to lose anyone. So you're a little bit more willing to get kind of walked on, or if someone does something that should easily get them fired, you might give them a couple more chances because you can't lose them. Because if you lose them, then you need to start from scratch to hire somebody else. And that sucks. So stage 4, I think, is when there's a shift and the company starts to hold that power, because if someone does something 1 or 2 times that is bad and they need to be fucking fired, you're fired. Then you just do it and the system replaces them. Somebody's in charge of hiring someone else. Someone's in charge of retraining them. The retraining process is easy because you've created a manual to do it. And that's stage 4. I'm not there yet. I think I'm going to be there in the next 1 to 2 years. But stage 4 is when the company holds more power and employees are a little more replaceable. In order to do that, you got to go through the first 3 stages. So I kind of made those stages up, but those are the stages of hiring. And I think this advice is for people in stages 1, 2, and 3. If you don't have any employees, or if you have 1 employee or 2 employees, that is where I've been the last 4 or 5 years. And I have some skill sets in these stages. I really do. I mean, I've hired, like I said, almost 60 people. I have 15 employees now. And the last few hires that I've made, I can sense my experience from my past hires coming into fruition. Like, I've made mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes. And that's why I've had 60 people. I've had to fire some people. I've had to replace people. I've had people quit. I've hired people quit in the first day. I've had people not show up. Every bad situation with an employee that you can have, I've had it. And I did it by just hiring people, putting myself in those situations. But these 5 tips, I have 5 tips that I've learned that I tell myself that I think can be very valuable for people that are in my stage. All right, so 5 tips. The first one is the most practical one, and it's, where do I list the job? Where do you start by hiring someone? So I know all about this. So Craigslist is probably where I've hired 55 out of my 60 employees. Craigslist is great. Now keep in mind, my jobs are jobs where people need to come into the office. Shipping packages, printing shirts, embroidering, customer service. They need to be at the office. So my jobs are not necessarily someone who has a specific skill set. It's more somebody who lives in the area, who is willing to be on their feet, work for a small company, do this job. So it's not like I'm looking for someone who has a college degree in a certain thing. So Craigslist is great for that. Craigslist is for people that's local. And Craigslist is $25 to list a job. And if you want to list it in 2 categories, it's an additional $25. So I usually spend $50 when I list a job on Craigslist, and I list it in office and administration. That's 1 category for $25. And then I list it in general labor, and that's another $25. So I generally spend $50 when I list a job on Craigslist, and you definitely get some good responses from local people. Recently, the first place I've been going, this is within the past 6 months, Facebook. Facebook has a new job platform, and it's free. So you can put a job on Facebook for 30 days, you list it, and it's free. And you actually get some good responses. Craigslist is where I've hired 55 out of 60 of the employees, but the past 3 or 4, a lot of them have come from Facebook. Facebook has a really good jobs platform. So that's the next place to look. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, that's the first place you might think of. And that might be a really good place to hire for more qualified jobs. This operations manager job that I was just talking about, I got in interviews for that through LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a little more expensive. It's about $10 a day is the minimum you can spend, but usually you end up spending around $90, $100, $110 to get some good qualifications on LinkedIn. So Craigslist, Facebook, LinkedIn, those are the places where I post jobs. Facebook's the cheapest. It's free, Craigslist is the second cheapest, and then LinkedIn's the third cheapest. And the fourth one that I want to talk about that I don't use is ZipRecruiter. Now, if you're listening to podcasts, which you're listening to one right now, so I know you listen to podcasts, you have had to have heard an ad for ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter advertises on every single podcast. And Family Guy has the funniest joke about this that I've always said.
Oh boy, everyone knows hiring is a nightmare. At least it was before ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter. We vastly overestimate how many podcast listeners are in a position to hire someone.
ZipRecruiter, we totally overestimate how many podcast listeners are in a position to hire people. And that's so true. I always think about that because there's so many ads for ZipRecruiter. And I think so many people aren't in position to hire people, but I am. I'm in position to hire people. And I hear ZipRecruiter ads every day, just like you do. So I want to use ZipRecruiter, but guess what? I can't use ZipRecruiter. I hate ZipRecruiter because here's how ZipRecruiter does it. They make you pay monthly. They make you pay a $300 to $400 monthly charge to be part of ZipRecruiter. Now I say I don't hire every month. I don't need to pay $300 or $400. Listen, you guys have spent this is what I said to the sales rep at ZipRecruiter. I said, listen, you spent so much money advertising to me. I hear ads everywhere. I hire people. I'm your perfect customer. But you're pricing me out. You're making me pay a monthly fee when I only need to hire every other month. It's ridiculous. So ZipRecruiter, you need to pay a monthly fee to be part of their service in order to get people. And I don't hire every single month. If I was hiring people every month, ZipRecruiter might be good. I don't know. I don't use ZipRecruiter because I want to pay per job that I post. So step one, where do you post jobs? Craigslist, Facebook, those are the best places to post jobs. And that matters. That stuff matters because you can waste your energy if you're posting it in the wrong spots. All right, so the second tip for hiring an employee is understand what they want. Think about their life and think about what matters to them. For me, the pitch that I always use is that we're a small company, and anyone that works for us understands that we're a small company. You might be able to make more money when you just start if you go to work at like Whole Foods or a big corporation or Amazon who has a $15 an hour minimum wage to work in their factory. But like people don't want to work in a factory. When you work at my small company, you're important. You're one of 12 people, one of 15 people. You are very valuable. So I look for people who need that. And a lot of people, they've worked for like Walmart or some big companies and they love the feeling that they're important. And that's one way to give people value and understand that. And they are important. It's true. So understanding why they're doing it. Where do they live? I always think about that because I need people to come into my office. If they live 10, 15 minutes away, that makes sense. If they live an hour away, I'm like, you're going to hate your life if you have to drive an hour to work every day. So just think about their day when they wake up and they go to work. What do they feel? What do they like? Why do they want to work here? Understand that and you'll do better of hiring people. Some people, they just want a job for security. I had this neighbor who lived next to me when I first moved to Charleston. He wanted to be an entrepreneur, and his wife said, listen, I want you to get a suit. He told me about this because I was an entrepreneur, and he always talked to me about it. His wife hated the fact that he wanted to start his own business. And his wife was like, listen, we have 2 kids. I want you to get a suit and tie on. I want you to have a corporate job, and I want you to have security.
Actually, sir, I really need this job to impress a girl.
And he was like, no, I love America. I want to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, great, man, go for it. And I knew his wife wasn't too happy. We moved. I actually saw the guy at the grocery store a couple of years later. His wife lives in Italy now and left him because she wanted the security of the job and he wanted to be an entrepreneur. But point is, some people just want a safe, secure job. And those people might be better in corporations. Those aren't the people that necessarily I'm looking for, but just understand why they want the job. Think about what their life is like on a daily basis. Jump into their shoes and grasp why they want the job. Get it. And that'll help you when it comes to hiring. Because if it makes no sense, it's not going to work out for them. Even if they say they want it, but they have to travel an hour and a half every single day, you know they're going to hate that. Maybe if they're making $200,000 a year, it's worth it. But they're going to hate it. So you have to think about things like that. So number 2 is think in their shoes and understand why they want the job. Number 3, this is an important one. And I've had experiences with this. And it's not political, but it's don't hire somebody who thinks like a victim. Somebody who hates hierarchy and hates the power. They hate the system. Those people aren't the best people to hire because you're the company and you're the system. So if they're a victim thinker and they're always looking to be victimized and they work for you, they're going to wait for an opportunity to be victimized and then they're going to sit there and complain about it. So people who have a victim mentality are very dangerous employees. People you hire, they must like you and they must like the company. And it's not like an ego thing, like they have to like me. They have to like me to work for me. It's a practical thing because when they come in every day, if they don't like the owner, if they don't respect the company, then you can't. Maybe in stage 4 that I talked about, where like the company has the power, but they're not going to work hard and the best they possibly can when no one's looking for the company if they hate the company and hate the hierarchy. Now, I've had trouble with this because I never judge when I hire people, and I've ran into this problem. So there's 2 kinds of these people. Number 1 is an active victim thinker. This is somebody who is vocal and will talk to the other employees and complain and complain and complain and try to get other people involved. Those people are dangerous. Don't hire those people. But the other type of person is somebody who has the ability to be a victim thinker and a complainer, but isn't vocal about it. They're inactive. So if you have 3 or 4 employees who are inactive victim thinkers and complainers, and then you hire a 5th who is a vocal, active victim complainer type person, that person will activate the other 4 people. And then you have 5 people who are all of a sudden against the company. And this happened to me before. I had these 2 girls who were great. And then this one girl came in and she was a total complainer, a total victim person, complaining about everything. Why doesn't the company do this? Why doesn't the company do this? When you're in a small business and you're just starting, you have 10, 15 people, you need go-getters. You need people who are positive and optimistic, and that matters. You can't have people who are always looking for a reason to complain. But what happened was this one girl started getting the other 2 girls to be friends with. They started going to lunch together. All of a sudden, all 3 of them quit on the same day because this one girl was like, activated these other 2 victim thinkers. Then I was out 3 people. And that's the worst thing because like I talked about how bad it is to lose someone in a small company because you have to replace them. So don't hire people who are victim thinkers, victim haters, complainers. Look at their Facebook, look at their Instagram before you hire them. You can't take everything from there, but if there's a bunch of complaining, oh, today sucked. Oh, this sucks. Oh, the country sucks. The government sucks. This sucks. If you see a bunch of this sucks posts and complain posts, don't hire that person in a small business. They will bring that negative energy to your company and it'll be a poison that spreads throughout your company. And you cannot have it. You have to monitor it and you have to watch it and you cannot let it happen. So number 3, do not hire victim thinkers and complainers. And number 4 relates to that. It's watch for clicks. Clicks. C-L-I-Q, clicks. Not clicks on the computer, clickiness. So it can be good, it can be bad. If you have 100 people, there's obviously going to be some clicks within the company. No clicks are best. No clicks are best because then you control the company narrative. But if the same 3 or 4 people start to go out to lunch every single day together or start to always be talking and excluding others, look for that and watch that. And especially if those clicks are the complainers, you have a big problem. If you have 3 people who are potential complainers and you notice that they're always going out to lunch together, they have nothing to talk about. What do you think they're going to talk about? They're going to start talking about the company, and then the one person's going to say, hey, that wasn't fair that I just stayed 5 minutes late the other day. And then if the other people are, they're going to be like, yeah, that wasn't fair. And then all of a sudden they're going to be like, oh, you're right. You know what? That wasn't fair. And people that are like this love to complain. So watch out for those clicks, especially if they're complainers and they start hanging. Now, if they're not complainers and they love the company and they start hanging out in clicks, just watch it and maybe say like, hey, why don't you go out with this person to lunch? Or why don't you do this? Just monitor clicks because clicks can like destroy a company. Now, I've never been big enough where it doesn't matter because I've only had 8, 12, 15 people and everyone we're just one big clique together as the company. That's what you want. You want the company to be a clique. So cliques within the company, they're dangerous if they're those victim people for sure. And they can be dangerous even if they're not, if they exclude other people. Just watch it, monitor it, know who's talking to each other about the company outside of work and inside of work. Think about what they're thinking, which goes back to number 2. Think about how they're portraying the company to other people. Because if you get negative talk about the ownership, about the company, outside of the company, that is terrible. And that can spread quickly because say you have a great viewpoint of the company and you go out to lunch with someone who's been working there for years and they're sitting there with you and you're like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh man, that company is annoying. Sean maybe worked late the other day, something like that. Then that person, what's the natural answer to that? It's probably, oh yeah, oh man, that does suck. You think the person would be like, no, come on, that's not true. I love Sean. More likely they're gonna be like, oh yeah, that does suck. Then it's in their head that it sucks. You need to watch clicks. You need to think about the people who are talking about your company that work for you outside of work. So number 4 is keep an eye out for clicks. Number 5, when you make decisions about hiring, firing, anything that you do, remember that your whole company is watching you. So this girl that I had to fire recently that I talked about in the beginning, honestly, I might have given her another chance. I might have been like, okay, why are you selling these online? You can't do that. But once I found out that everyone in the company kind of was whispered down the lane and heard about it, I knew that I was on the spot. I was on the spot. I could have either been walked all over on or I had to make the firing choice right at that time. People are watching what you do. So if you fire someone, make sure you have good reasons. Make sure that it's respectable. Make sure that if you can explain yourself to the other people in your company, because if 2 people work for you and then the way you treat one person, the other person's going to be like, that's how I'm treated. So know that you're kind of being watched the way you treat other people when you're in a company. Everyone's watching you. And another lesson from this, I remember I was so nervous when I needed to fire my first employee a couple of years ago. I was so nervous, not because they didn't deserve it, because they definitely deserved it. It was someone who worked with me for a long time. They were fading off. The company had grown a little bit, and they knew they were going to be fired. I was nervous that everyone else was going to be mad at me for firing her. That was the biggest thing I was nervous about. But I did it. After I fired her, I went right back and I talked to everyone. And everyone was cool with it. They understood because I treated it fairly. They understand the situation that I put her in before. I gave her some warnings. Treat people fairly. Understand that you're being watched. And that's just important. That's number 5. So getting employees is so important for your journey as an entrepreneur. It might be a year or 2 before you hire someone, but you're never going to grow a company. You're never going to get rich. You're never going to streamline a business unless you have people working for you. You need to hire people. And I would have loved to have had these tips when I just started. So these are 5 practical tips for somebody who is just starting a business in between 1 and 20 people in the early stages in your first 3 years. A little recap is number 1, where you post your jobs. Craigslist is where I've hired most people. Facebook is free. Number 2 is understand why you're hiring these people. Put yourself in their shoes, understand what they're thinking. Number 3 is don't hire victim thinkers. Don't hire complainers who complain about the company. Number 4 is keep an eye out and monitor for the clicks within the company, the people going out to lunch together. And number 5 is remember that the whole company is watching you when you make decisions. And that's how you gain respect. If you treat people with respect, you will get respect in return. If you have 15 people and you're firing one person, all of the 14 people are going to see how you did that. And if you did it respectfully, they will respect that, and then they will respect you, and they will respect the company. And a company where there's just respect going all over the place is the type of company that has the building blocks to have a strong foundation on top of it. It's so important. Cut out the cancers in your company. If you find 1 or 2 of those complainers, get rid of them. Don't let it spread. Don't let negative energy spread throughout your company. Let positive energy spread throughout your company. Talk to your employees, stay positive, and those are 5 tips for hiring. Thanks for listening. Peace out.